Greetings, greetings. This is the phrasekeywords.com, phrase your flows. This is a session that Mr. Phrase Keywords, I will walk you through a new feature that, well, this will be the first time I walk you through this feature. But before I even get to that, I just want to just say a couple ground rule type things. And that is, if I can remember, oh my goodness, I had I, I had such a long day today, but at the same time, I got a lot of rest. I don't know how that's possible, but now I'm at this point now where it's like I'm starting to feel like the 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 blessing of being in that space of, okay, you're tired, you really don't want to do a podcast right now, but you really need to do a podcast, so you're going to fight through the fatigue, and you're not going to talk as fast, you're not going to be as eloquent, but you're going to rely on phrase keywords to carry you through. And ultimately, that's going to demonstrate what phrase keywords are. But if I were to articulate, I would say in the creative space, what I realize is there's an exchange between self and the environment. And in that way, phrase keywords is a common mathematical almost denominator of where you're comfortable making that exchange and for how long. Now, I know it could be taken a lot of different ways, so let me clarify. So imagine if there were like a scale of numbers and you had 19 different options. And I was at, if you gave each one of them a number, and I was at three, and this other, messaging person was at five, and then we tried to communicate, we wouldn't be at the same scale. And that alone could cause miscommunication. That neither what there's no right or wrong here. There's no, okay, he's better than you and you're not, or because your number's lower, you're better than him. It's nothing like that. It's just the very fact that you're just at a different setting and not aligned allows for the opportunity for miscommunication, which could be tragic in a lot of cases. Imagine if that person was trying to tell you to, you know fill the cup with water, and you translated that one parameter water and you said fill the cup with gasoline. It's a big difference, right? You wouldn't drink gasoline. That could kill you. So you would want to make sure that the levels of communication itself were aligned in such a way where those types of data mishaps wouldn't happen. So phrase keywords, believe it or not, allows you to not only standardize the keywords you're using, but to standardize that level of communication. So, for example, if an AI system didn't know how to communicate to all the different levels of humans properly, you wouldn't want like the AI talking to a young person that's, to say, 5 years old in a very aggressive tone. That shouldn't be how AI communicates. You always want the AI to be friendly and comforting, right? But what if there was a misalignment between the AI's just normal communication and the child's normal communication that created that fear that didn't even need to be there if you just aligned them properly? So that's what I mean by levels of alignment. Is you don't want to speak even just regularly. You don't want to speak to someone and you're not at the same level of communication. I could think of a lot of different more examples of that, but honestly, I think you'll get it. So you'll definitely get it in what we're going to cover tonight in this podcast. So the key here for me is to just stick to the script. I was telling myself this like all night, just Amari, just stick to the script. And that's another joy of phrase keywords is it helps you stick to the script. So once you set your level of communication, you've communicated that, and you see what that means in a minute, then it becomes the standard, and you can just smoothly move forward into your trajectory. So, what do we want to talk about? Creative use number one. If we go to the website, Where's the website? Here we go. If we go to the website here and you click on creative uses, you'll notice that there are three different options here. There's user guidance, there's biography capture, and then there's storyboarding. So within the biography capture, I'm not going to click on it just now, but there's a matching genre. If you go inside the tool, the PKD tool, and you go to settings, there is a genre here that allows you to choose autobiography. And when you choose autobiography and you go back to your PKD sheet, it's going to be loaded with the autobiography phrases. These are standardized phrases that you can now just point and click, and it will let you lay out what would be. Actually, these are the phrases for outline. So what happened here is I chose autobiography, but the sheet itself is still displaying outline. So the way I fix that is I'll just type something here. This would trigger the macro. Then I'll take it out. Now I should have updated. There it goes. So if that happens on your end, just type something in the search and hit enter. And if you have to clean it up, just clean it up. But that should resolve that issue. So now that I have what would be the biography phrases displayed, I could just point and click at any of these options and it will load that step by step. Now, I don't want to call them steps. Like it's not like a step. These are different phases of what would be the person's life. Well, these are basic scenes. Like I could give it a different name. And the way to do that, I'm going to go to settings. Where it says step name override, that's where I'm going to place whatever word I want to use to substitute step. I'm thinking, for now, let's just keep it generic. Let's just call it line. All right. That sounds too close to line. Lie. Let's call it. Let's call it. What do we want to call it? This is where I just start trying to open my mind up and try to just feel what I feel like is the right word to put here for this. So let's just do that session right now. And this is where you just breathe, inhale and exhale, and you just really settle into it. And you just allow your imagination to just draw a picture of what do you see the step name override value being. Now, as absurd as it may sound, in this moment, it's practical that we breathe and relax and just ponder, do we even need a step name override? So let's think about this for a second. This is the biography of myself. This is my own biography. And these are the items of like my mother's name, my father's name. These are my siblings. I was born in this neighborhood. I was raised in this borough. I went to this high school. I went to this college. I graduated on this date. I got married. I had, two beautiful children. Do I want to call those steps or do I want to call those something else? That's the fundamental question I'm posing here. I could call them blessings. I don't know. I'm still kind of like, I'm gonna just call it bio. Bio 1, bio 2, bio 3. I'll just call it bio for now. There we go. See, so because it's autobiography, I'm just gonna go with bio. Or I could just go with because we're doing the outline, but no, we're not doing the outline. I almost tricked myself there. We're doing the biography. So bio, Bio step, bio next. Who knows? Let's just go with bio. So now if we go, if we can hide this sheet, go back to the PKD. All right, so as you can see here, these phrases are for the bio, loaded from the bio sheet. I'm gonna close this sheet here because it was throwing me off a little bit earlier. Let's hide that. So I'm gonna say, let's click on the first one, birth date. I was born on date. And I'm gonna use, fictitious, you know, a fictitious value for now. Wait for it to refresh. I hope I didn't take too long. Sometimes if you move too slow, the macro will time out on you. Then you're like, is it there or is it not there? Because sometimes they'll post it, but then the browser whatever doesn't refresh. So it's there, but then you can't see it. So then a simple refresh, like let me just check. Okay, there. See, it's there. Now that's trippy to me because while you're actually laying things out, you're having these experiences where you're not sure if it's there or if it timed out or sometimes it just pops up right away. So you're getting like these stimulating experiences just from clicking these check boxes and just going into this level of what did I call it earlier? Level of communication. So as you can see here, the next thing I'm going to say is I was born in, this time I'm going to try to move a little bit faster. New York, New York, hit enter. New York City. No, that's New York. See, I should have read it. Doesn't matter. I was born in New York, New York City, New York State. That sounds so like, come on, man. All right, this is where you would go and you would just edit. See, edit step. Now I can change the values. I was born in, right? Let's say Trenton, and then I'm gonna say New Jersey. It updates. So as we can see here, we're establishing what would be that level of communication, and we're also capturing the data in a very quick and accurate way. Of course, the accuracy comes down to the person using the tool. And again, this is not my personal information. I'm just using dummy data for now to demonstrate how this works. Now, what I want to do here, and again, we're in the spirit of sticking to the script. So what I want to do here is I'm going to clear this sheet. I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool. At least I think it's cool. That is the use template checkbox. Now, what I set up ahead of time was an entire sheet of all the phrases that I just want to start out with, all at one time, as opposed to me having to like click one by one. What if there was just a template that most of my work always uses? Well, here's the thing. I created one for a man and one for a woman. And we're going to test both of them, see how they work. So when you click use template, it just goes and applies the template. It's going to show you a processing status update, applying phrase template. Please wait. Renumbering template steps. That's where it's going to add the bios, bio 1, bio 2, bio 3. And then, assuming it doesn't time out here, we get the success message. So as you can see here, I've got my template here. And what I can do is I can insert steps here. So let's say, for example, my template's loaded. And let's see, what's a good example? Um, my father worked for, let's say that my mother worked. Let's start there. Let's say my mother worked. She was not a stay-at-home mom. So I want to substitute this with, let's see, let's type in here, mother did not. Let's see what comes up. All right, so that's not the one I want to substitute it for, though. I'm going to say mother worked for, here we go. All right, so I want to substitute this one for what is bio 6. So what I would do first is I would select that row and I would, let's just go ahead and insert a step. That's just going to create the blank row. Okay. Then I'm going to say search again. Mother worked for. Then I'm going to click that checkbox. Now it's going to ask me two questions, right? What's the company name and the job title? Right now, I'm not going to care. I'm just going to take the default. So I'm just going to hit enter real quick and enter real quick. So it's going to insert that there and renumber those steps. Voila. So now that I have the one that I want, now I'm going to delete the one that I don't want here, which is again bio 6. I'm going to remove that step. So it removes that step, and now it's going to renumber those correctly. So I started with the template, and then I made what would be a small change. I changed one phrase out for another. So then what I want to do is I'm going to save this whole piece of work here as its own PKD. And what's that going to do is that's going to allow me to give it a name. Let's call it uh, boy bio. Let's be a little bit more specific. Yeah, male template. That took too long. Let's see if it's going to run properly. The crazy thing about like using naming conventions is sometimes your first thought isn't always the best thought because you got to also take into consideration you might be sharing this with your team, and you want to make sure that you're not making yourself a distraction, if you know what I mean. So that's why if I see it, if I start off naming something a certain way, and then you see me change it, it's probably because I checked and I was like, you know what, that might it's harmless to me, but it might offend someone else. So I'm gonna do the right thing and clear the sheet. No, really, I'm gonna do the right thing and rename it to something that won't be possibly offensive to anyone. Because really, this phrase keywords tool, I would love to see everyone use it on some creative level. It would be beautiful. But I dared to dream. I dared to dream out loud, at least. So I click the woman template, and it's going to load what would be the phrases that again could have any number of phrases in them. My suggestion is to keep it, in the 20s of don't like go beyond like 20 or 30, 30 to max for now. because you only get so much time to run the macro. You don't want to have so many phrases that it causes the macro to time out, and then your job doesn't complete on time. So hence, I just say keep it to what we see here. 17 it was a nice number in terms of quantity of phrases that are in the actual template. All right, so it loaded the girl. How do we know? Because it's born a beautiful baby girl on, right? And again, let's say the mom worked and the no, let's leave that whole topic. Let's leave the whole topic. Let's say um, let's say there was more than two children. As you can see here, the default template has one or two. Let's say there were three children. So everything else is fine, but there were three children. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to, it says my second child, I'm going to assume my third child would be it, right? My third. And that's the other fun thing about this tool, is you get to play this guessing game. And I was right. My third child is in fact there. So now if I click this, it should add that phrase to the flow. I'm just going to quickly enter through these dialogues here. It should enter that phrase at the bottom, and of course, it should be numbered correctly already. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, there's the third child. All right, and what else? Do I want to change anything else? No. I'm gonna now go ahead and save this as its own PKD. We're gonna call this, since we called the first one male, we'll call this female. All right. All right, so as you can see here, we have both the male and the female templates complete as the way we want them. And we can, it's still running the macro where it's bolding the actual values. Once this phase is done, which we are now, then we would go to the male. And let's say now I had a group of, you know, men stories to tell. Let's say one of them were, I don't know, what's a good name? Let's just call him, I don't know, a letter of the alphabet. Let's use the first letter A. So let's say A, I was doing a biography on A, so I could easily just copy the male template because A is a male, rename it, right? Let's call him triple A. And then I could go in here and actually tweak the dates. So let's say he was born, January 7th, right? 1916. I could just go, I don't need that double bracket. I could just go in here and populate it line by line like that. Of course, the other options, I could just load the template in here. So let's say, for example, I was working on, let's say the girl, what's a good letter for girl? Let's say B, right? So let's say I would go to this female template, or I would go to the PKD. And since I know I'm working on B, I would, you know, just go in here and use the macros to populate each value. So I could say edit step. And again, B could have been born on January 16th, 1916. Let's just keep it consistent to 7. So it updated it there. Then I could just use that, over and over and over again to then produce what I would have had if I would have just copied it and did it the other way. So there's two ways to go about doing it. That's the point I'm trying to make. And so if you had somebody doing this and they were working for you, and you knew there were two ways to go about doing it. If you were in a rush, this would probably be the fastest way. Just directly going to the sheet and just quickly type it in yourself. Because if you're trying to do it through the macros, then you have to account for the time that it takes for the macro to run. So, for example, if I was populating, I was born in city state, right, and I wanted to put a value there. Let's just do a quick run here. Let's clock it. You ready? Edit step. I'm clocking it. I'm clocking it. Let's say Trenton, and then let's say New Jersey. Let's keep it short. All right, that took like a whole, what, 10, 15 seconds, maybe even longer. It felt like it took a while compared to, let's say I just went to the sheet and I said, I just need to change this. Let's see. I just double click Trenton, and of course there's a typo. And then I just say NJ and I'm done. Like that felt like easily less than 10 seconds. So, like I said, if you're in a rush, this is probably the fastest option, just to save the whole PKD and just edit each cell one at a time until you're done. But if you're not in a rush, the way more cooler way, the way more, therapeutic way, I would say, because for me, it's a little bit therapeutic. It gives me a few seconds to even like think about what I'm actually going to put there. And sometimes within that small second wait, genius just displays itself. Of course, I'm exaggerating. But even right there, it was a few second wait. So I might say, DD. Let's just stick to that naming convention. So there is, right, like there was some delays in there that I actually enjoy as a user of the sheet. I'm just keeping it honest. I'm not just the designer and creator of it, but I'm also a client. A user just sounds a little addictive. So, what this allows us to do in real time, if you've been paying attention, is we've been communicating at this level of communication. We're at the level where we're talking about the sheet, and we're at the level where we're populating the phrases in the sheet. But the phrases are not complicated. The phrases are rather simple but very useful for capturing that basic data that we need if we want to start with, you know, documenting a bio, our own bio or someone else's bio. Which brings me to this point in the presentation. Let's just check to see if the search is going to display our three PKDs. If I refresh it, I'm going to hit refresh. I'm going to delete this value. You see that? It should have refreshed. So what I'm tempted to do now is just close this whole sheet, reopen it, and see why, the macro that is behind this should have refreshed. Sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's just something inherently going on with the tool itself. But it could have been something I did. So that's going to be something I'm gonna look into, as to, is that a dead fish in the water, or is that like something that is involved with the limitation of using Google Sheets in the cloud? Because if I reopen it, like, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna close it, reopen it, let the macros refresh. Here we go. And let's see if it picks up and search those PKD sheets. Hmm. So wait, it's still running. This is interesting because we're going through what would be a test of my tool, and you're just going through this journey of what testing actually feels like. Aha! You see this amazing moment where it's finished updating, and I see these PKD sheets listed because it could have went the other way, and it could have been like confirming that there's a dead fish in the water, a defect that needs to be fixed here. But it worked here, indicating that the data was there the whole time. It just needed to be refreshed. There's something that didn't trigger the refresh properly. And that is coming across as either something that I could have introduced as a defect um, through configurations, or it could just be how the cloud inherently is behaving with relation to refreshing the sheet right now. And it may not necessarily be a defect in anyone's layer. It could just be, again, the level of communication between these integrating points. Something could just be lost in translation. So that just needs to be aligned, possibly. Is that a defect? Is it not a defect? That's subject to more conversation. Some would say that that's just a configuration issue, but I promised myself I was going to stick to the script, and that's what I'm doing. All right. In closing, what we created our female template, PKD, our male template. Now we were working on a female here. So if I wanted to save B, which is our female, I would go to macros and save PKD. Once I'm satisfied with the data here, I'm going to call this B. Let's just call it B, take out the word template. I'm going to fix the other one as well so that the pattern's consistent here. But first, let's let this macro finish running. Now, when I experience this is the effect of like watching a macro run. I call that playback, and you're actually watching a macro run. You don't really get to watch a program run unless it's running at a speed where you can watch it unfold its result. But most programs, we click a button and then boom, the app's open and you do stuff. What I like about automation is you're actually watching the program run in real time as it does its stuff. Its level of granularity and your level of observation are perfectly aligned. And it's doing it as it runs each phrase keyword. You're now experiencing that phrase keyword as it, executes each phrase keyword. How are you experiencing it? This is the question that begins to unfold in my own consciousness. But I promised myself I was going to stay on script. So let's get back to it. All right, let's rename this to that. So now I'm going to bring my A over here. I have a chart somewhere that basically says A is male, B is female. And this is actually the name of the person. So this would be where A, the male, baby boy, if his name was, let's say, what's a good name? A common name like John. If his name was John, then you would put John underscore PKD. If another common name, Jill. If if Jill was doing her bio, she would call it Jill underscore PKD. So in this case, B and A are representing the name of the person. And if, for example, you wanted to get more granular, the key here is whatever level of granularity you want to use with the name, just be consistent. So, for example, if this is going to be the first name for let's say B F name, and you were just going to use a first name, it could get messy because what if there were multiple people named Jill? Then you would want to add some sort of unique identifier. It could be a birth date. I see a lot of people like use birth dates, but then I'm like, well, what if someone has the same birthday? You're not asking for the time. So it's a possibility that it could be a Jill born on January 7th, 1916. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't give me the comfort and confident level that I'm looking for with this use case. So I'm thinking, Jill, birth date. How about combining that with the last name? What's the odds that we're going to get Jill Smith born on the exact same day? Like, see, now I'm having this conversation with myself. And for some creators will stop there and say, you know what? Realistically, there's never just going to be somebody with the same name, full name, and birthday. That's just never going to happen in our system. So I'm just gonna go ahead with that use case as is. And see, the difference between them and me is I'm like, I couldn't stop there. I'm like, no, there's gonna be somebody that comes in here with the same first and last name and born on the same birth. I know as unrealistic as it sounds, it's gonna happen. Let's just add one more identifier. And like, but it can't be like a social security number or nothing too personal, right? So it's like, okay, what would be that fourth identifier? Da-na-na. And that's where geography comes in. So it's like there's never gonna be a Jill Smith, right, born on the same day that also come from the same borough. And most people will stop there. I would say 95% of people will be like, okay, let's go with that. Let's see, when it comes to me, like I still think it's possible for there to be a Jill Scott from Brooklyn born in 1916 on that same day. As unrealistic as that is, let's just add one more. What do we want to even call these now? These are like attributes, right? But we're using them in the naming convention to make it just absolutely unique. And we can't use something like social security number. How about phone number or like the last four digits of their phone number? How about that? Or it may be the whole number. So let's start playing around with that. So as we're starting to implement this, we're gonna say BBB first name. We need a delimiter. So we want to use, let's say, underscore as the delimiter. We're gonna say last name underscore birth date. Let's call that B date underscore. What else we say? Um, city underscore state underscore, and then let's say last four of phone number. Let's just put the whole phone number. Let's call it phone. So that's the naming convention for each PKB sheet. And so we'll save that, and then we'll do the same thing for A. So what we're going to do is we're going to click rename. Let's just put like a underscore there as well. Let's copy that, and then we're going to go over here to A, and we're going to paste that there. So now A has the same name. So if let's say now we have a biography to do on, let's say, Gigi, and Gigi's a female, all I have to do is just go to the last female that I did. If I want to use the same template, duplicate that and just rename it. Go to the one that says copy of, rename that to GGG. And of course, I would put, you know, GGGs in this case, just, you know, that's what first name would go. So realistically, it would look like this. Let's just fix that so it doesn't get confusing. It would look like that. GGG L name. And that's how we'll know which one is the template and which one isn't. The template will have the F name. And then, so if we were doing a guy, a male, a man, we would go to not male template, but we would go to A. When I do A, there it goes. We will go to A, and let's say the guy's name was L. Then we would, come on, there we go. Then we will have that. Oh, silly me. I was supposed to have deleted this part. It's crazy that it came out like this with all the L's because that was not intentional. Just keeping in that pattern, we have the G and then we have the L. And I'm thinking, just kind of thinking out loud here, as one of these attributes, it would probably be helpful to have a gender attribute there as well. That would really just add another layer of impossibility that would just make, you know, it's so unrealistic. Anyways, I'll give that a little bit more thought as we proceed. As you can see here, just this process alone of naming things, of organizing things, it's very mind stimulating. Like so much time has gone by already, and like I still feel like I'm still having fun here. Like I don't want to stop working on this right now. It's just something that I guess something about it, this whole process of using phrase keywords. What it again, I'll repeat, like I said in the beginning, that level of communication, even if it's just 1 degree off, do you really want that 1 degree to be off, which increases the chances of a miscommunication? Like, what if you said, I need you to put gasoline in the tank because the car was out of gas, and it came across as, oh, I need you to put water in the tank. I hope the person would be like, wait a minute, this has to be a typo because don't nobody ask you to ever put water in the gas tank. But let's say it was a typo. I mean, excuse me, it wasn't a typo. It was just a miscommunication that occurred because of that 1 degree off. So for its keywords, it's allowing me to have that level of communication with my environment itself, if that makes sense. My thoughts, my my hospitality, my execution, just how I interact with the world and how the world interacts with me. There's this level of communication facilitated by how my thoughts are structured them, as you would see a phrase keyword. And not all my thoughts, of course, but the ones that I use for communicating with the external world, the universe around me. And for that reason, I'm able to heighten my level of comfortability and confidence in what the universe presents me. Because this is what I'm constantly asking for on so many levels. And even my ability to sit here and navigate future clients and users through phrase keywords, even this ability of just doing this here and now is an experience that I, for one, treasure and would not want to go without. So, from that standpoint, you know, I could put my shades on, but I promised myself I would stick to the script. All right, getting back to the PKD tool. When I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and click clear PKD. Yes. And now I'm ready to continue using the PKD sheet to do another biography, or I can switch my genre to something different and work on a completely different creative activity. But before I switch to a new genre that's totally different from biography, I also want to point out that there's also the outline for the biography. And this is what we saw in the beginning, that I switched to autobiography. But now I'm switching back to outline just to give you a preview of what we'll cover in the next session. If you zoom out a little bit, the very structure of the biography itself should be formatted using phrase keywords. So if we zoom out a little bit and I say, well, how long do I want? First of all, do I want this to be a video, or do I want this to be written down? And how do I want to measure if it's written down, like by pages or by words? So that's the first very high level decision you're making. And usually that's already known anyway, because you know what kind of project it is from the very inception. You say, okay, this is going to be a video. All right, you already know that. So the first thing to give your video is a title. Then it has the option to give your book a title. So let's say, for example, I'm going to just not give it a title just yet. I'm just going to create my structure right now. And notice here, I'm still using the bio override. I'm going to start with my title. And then I'm going to put the video presenter name. Again, I'm just going to hit enter because we're just laying out the flow right now. And then for starters, this video would be, and I'm going to decide the length of the video. I'm going to say it's going to be 20 minutes. You know what? You know what? 20 minutes is fine. Now, the topics that I want to talk about in my video, that's what I'm going to get into next. And this is an example of a list of topics that cover the different phases of what would be my life. So I'll say, well, I want to talk about my childhood. So let's start with my childhood. And we're talking about, this is the outline for my bio. I want to talk about, do I want to talk about my teenage years? Yeah, I want to talk about my teenage years. Now, if I had two different places that I wanted to cover, then I would say place. So let's do that. I want to talk about my teenage years. Place one. And then I want to talk about my teenage years. Place two. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stop here because if I go any further, then I'm really going to be going much deeper into the topic of the next session. I don't want to do that. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information in this one session. I know it was a lot to cover. We actually got a lot done. It was quite a lot of fun. And we're going to pick up in the next session from what would be our PKDs. I'm still celebrating the fact that this worked. Oh, look, it updated again. See, that's how it's supposed to behave. You just open the sheet, and just by focusing on the sheet, it's supposed to, update. Maybe it's not. Maybe I need to go revisit that. When I go watch this video, I'm gonna definitely be like, okay, go revisit that, see if you can make that more stable. But again, it might be one of those things where it's inherently within the Google Sheet tool itself. There's nothing I can do to really change that behavior. I saw I get on the phone and call Google's headquarters and be like, hey, is there anything you could do about that? Imagine that. They'd be like, well, yeah, we'll get that fixed for you right away. And then like 10 seconds pass and it's fixed. That's how I foresee how like fast technology will move in the future, in the near future. Because right now I have zero confidence that I can get somebody on the phone at Google and ask them that question. Like I don't know why I have zero confidence, but I just do. And for that reason, I've like it would feel like a waste of time. I should just do it anyway, but I promised myself I was going to stay on script, and that's what I'm going to do. So if I want to, open any one of these sheets, I just click on it, which is pretty cool because you can jump around. You can use this as a navigation tool as well. So now I'm at that sheet, and it remembers the cell that you were on last, which is pretty cool. And I can get to like editing this. It's at my own pace, of course. However long it takes, I think realistically, if I was to do like a performance test on myself, you know what? Let's just do one right now. It's like let's just see how long it takes, and then we'll close out this session with that sort of feedback. So let's go to one that doesn't have any birth date in it. All right. Let's create. This is gonna be a female. No, let's create a male. This is gonna be a male. His name is gonna be Adam. So we're gonna duplicate, and we're going to rename, and we're going to. You know what? No, no, we're not supposed to start. I'm gonna delete that. Let's start over. We weren't supposed to start with these PKDs because we created our own A and B, and B was for girl, and A was going to be for Adam. So where's A? This is the one we use. All right. So we're going to duplicate this and rename this, and we're going to call this one ADN. So we remove the first name because the first name one is just indicating that it's going to be the template we use. When we remove the first name, we know that that's an actual, like in this case, it's a boy, a male. So let's see how long it takes to fix this. Let's see. Let's go on three. One, two, three. Go. Yeah, it's going pretty fast. Let's see. I don't know why I said Chicago, Illinois, but hey, Chicago. We're gonna say B is the mother, and we're gonna say A is the father. Two-parent household with I don't know. I was just had one sister, like one sister. You know what? Give me a couple brothers because we want to play 3-on-3 basketball. So give me 5 brothers. You know what? She's gonna want to play. So give me 4 brothers. We'll let her play, and then me. You see how phrase keywords are fun? All right. Again, it's the performance test. This is what you would actually do in a real situation. This is what I at least would hope you would do, and help you how you would process each phrase keyword one at a time. Give it the amount of thought that it deserves, and give it the right data. All right, and put some thought into the data. Like for example, my mother worked for company name. What's a good company name? I don't know. Let's go with books are books are .us. How about that? And my mother worked for them as let's see, admin, straight tour. Did I spell that right? I think I did. All right. My father worked for the same company, but he was in the gaming division, AR VR division. He worked as let's make him a QA. Let's make him a QA engineer. Mm, let's give him a team. How about let's give him? See, it does this sometimes. Let's give him a senior. We're gonna bold that ourselves. Let's see. I attended the school name. What's a good school name? I went to the books and gaming elementary school, and the elementary school was located in let's say HR. I'm not. Is there a Hardin? I don't know. I'm just making up a city name right now. Let's go a little bit more generic with the name. That could offend somebody. I didn't intend to offend. I apologize. Let's go a little bit more generic. Let's call it Flower City. It just seems impossible that the word flower could offend anyone. I think everybody loves flowers. All right, so um I attended the let's call it the IT. Let's call it the Polytechnic Middle School, and that was in um, Rose, Illinois. And then I attended the let's call it the Poly Boys High School. uh, let's not stick them in just a boys' high school. Let's name it after the Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn. I had a few friends go there. I need to get something to drink. Well, I'm getting thirsty, so before I run out of saliva, that didn't sound right, but before my mouth goes completely dry, and I have to run and get some water. I'm going to go ahead and close this session out. And I just want to thank you for participating in what would be the creative uses of phrase keywords. This is the biography capture, and this was our session one. I'll be following up with session two real soon. We're going to pick up from where we left off out here. We're going to finish naming the sheet, and then we're going to do a few more cool things with our outline. In case you forgot already, where is it? Where is it? Let's go to search. Mm. Oh, I thought I saved the outline. I guess I didn't. Hmm. Yeah, it's still in here. So before I sign off, let me just go ahead and let's save that. We'll pick it up from here, but just in case I don't come back to it right away and I end up clearing this out, let's make sure the outline is here. So let's call it the bio outline. Let's put the word outline in the name itself. I'm glad I caught that because it's just small little things like this that can just save me a whole hassle the next time I return back to this work. And if you could save yourself just a small hassle, trust me when I tell you that is much appreciated by your future self. So let's go ahead and just say, there we go. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for your time, and I hope that we you walk away from this, at least this first session, with an idea of what it's like to work with me in these sessions. You can watch it a few times, but by the end of watching it just one time, we should be at the same level of communication. And this level of communication is fun to be at. You'll see that we're going to start having a lot of fun. Once we're at the same level of communication and we're communicating via phrase keywords, then we're going to be able to be super creative because now we're going to be at the same exact level. There aren't going to be any like miscommunications. We're going to be able to give special attention to the data that we are exchanging in our dialogue. The data is going to be highlighted. We're going to be able to pinpoint precisely what the other person is saying and what their intent is and how they say it. It's just opens up a whole new world for us. So if you got through this video and you're at this level of communication, then congratulations, you made it, you did it. Because when we get to the next video, we're going to pick up right from here, and you're going to start to experience what would be the wonderful uh, possibilities of that level of synchronization. And one of them is just going to be how when you start using the tool yourself and experiencing each phrase keyword the way I described it, you're going to start to see that when you click these check boxes in the PKD tool, like for example, if I click this one right here, you're going to experience a an amazing, how would I say, emotion as your phrase appears in this display here. And that emotion is going to be observing, it's going to be based on observing the macro run in real time. That in and of itself, it just makes me applaud Google. It also makes me applaud the inspiration for Google Sheets, Excel, of course, Microsoft Excel, and all the other spreadsheets out there. But with Google implementing in Google Sheets this checkbox executing a macro feature and making it so easy for me to set up these checkboxes. I mean, whew, that in and of itself allows for this to happen where I click the checkbox and there's this delay, and then there's this execution of the macro that I'm watching unfold right before my eyes. And then when I see my phrase get displayed with the right data, I mean, it's a sensation of completion. It's like I finished something. I finished that phrase at least. Now I'm going to the next phrase and the next phrase. And as you just see the entire process unfold right before your eyes, then it becomes apparent that the PKD tool is just more than just a tool. Like using it, it's therapeutic in and of itself. And if you can vibe with that, if you could tap into that therapy at the right times, especially when your creative self is unfolding, and allow yourself to unfold in that space, man, the type of ideas that you can communicate, the scenes that you can create, just the just a small increase in any direction, a small, you know, it could be, at the nanoscale, but a small percentage increase could have profound effects for you as a creative person. So, if the very tool that you're using is also therapeutic to your creative process, you've basically stumbled on what is the PKD tool. And if that's true for you as it is for me, then now you have something that is bringing not just joy to you, but it's bringing your best creative ideas out in that moment. And you're tapping in to part of your creative process that you may have not been able to tap into for a very long time. So if that were to be true, and I know it is for me, so if that were to be true for you, then welcome to the PKD tool, because in that light, it's one of a kind and it's the original. And while there will be imitators and different forms of flattery out there to come after, you can always have a connection to the original source, the original PKD tool, and that's moi, Mr. Phrase Keywords. So now it's time for me to put my shades on and celebrate, sticking to the script and getting you to this point where we can say peace and love. I'm out.